Hey guys, are you paying attention to all of this new news on how the SAT has changed and wondering what this backstory is on the SAT essay? Why did it disappear? And where did it come from in the first place? So in this video, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. My name is Brooke. I've been an independent college consultant and SAT and ACT prep coach for over a decade and a half. I've created a couple of online courses for both of those tests. You can check those out at SupertutorTV if you're wondering more about me. We've also got a couple of ACT math books on Amazon.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and head to SupertutorTV.com/subscribe to subscribe to our mailing list. We will send you updates of everything awesome going on at SupertutorTV, new videos we have coming out, and any deals that we might have on our courses or otherwise. So let's get into this story. While the SAT has been around for over 90 years, the essay is only 16 years old, and we are in the second iteration of the essay. So when people might claim that, oh, the SAT essay has been killed and now this is moving away from standardized testing and we're not going to have tests anymore ever, I don't think that's completely accurate because the SAT has been around for a really long time, and most of that time there was no essay. So I don't think this is any commentary on the SAT's longevity. I think it's the SAT doubling down on its core product, which is the SAT itself, the SAT reasoning test, and sort of getting rid of these tertiary things which were created to appease people who no longer even believe in the SAT. Back in 2005, what happened is the University of California system, right, who's been at odds with the College Board for a while now, complained to the College Board that its test didn't include a writing portion, and many of the professors at their college were complaining that all these kids were acing the SAT and then getting into freshman year courses and they didn't know how to write. The College Board decided to add an essay to the regular SAT, and in doing so, what they did is they actually killed off an SAT subject test, which was the SAT subject test in writing. It used to be in the olden days, before we had a writing section, that colleges and universities, elite colleges and universities, were using the SAT subject test in writing. It had become required sort of in the early 2000s by many top universities, and it included a 20-minute essay section in addition to a grammar section, which now you see incorporated into the regular SAT. So basically the SAT pre-2005 did not include grammar items. So there was no writing and language portion, as you guys know it if you're taking the SAT right now, or writing section if you took the 2400 SAT. It was just a verbal section, and it included vocabulary items, analogies, and reading comprehension. In any case, they scrapped the writing SAT subject test and basically converted that to a writing section of the SAT, popped the score up to 2400, made 25% of your writing test score the essay. So you basically would take your essay score and then your multiple choice score, and you kind of added them together to figure out what your SAT writing overall score was, right? They composited together. So that was kind of how it worked. This essay was like an open-ended philosophical question. So it was like, it was an essay about freedom or, the power of hard work versus luck. It was kind of like cheesy philosophical essays like that. The College Board didn't grade you down if you didn't use facts. You weren't supposed to be graded on facts. It was supposed to be just on your writing style. So you could basically make things up and be rewarded for it, which is kind of crazy. A little bit of time later, a fellow named Les Perelman, who was a writing professor from MIT, was an outspoken critic of the test and basically kind of became even quoted by the College Board as the man who killed the SAT essay. He essentially had assembled an Excel spreadsheet of scores and correlated them with the length of the essay and found such a huge correlation between length of essay and essay score that he decided to write several articles about it. And he further criticized that when graders are expected to read, say, 20, 30 essays an hour and are paid around $17 per hour, and paid bonuses when they read more essays per hour, that they are not incentivized to be accurate. They're incentivized to read as fast as possible. And what ends up happening is if you use a bunch of really hoity-toity fancy words and you have a long essay, you have these markers that are really easy to identify, you get a high score. And if you don't get a high score. And that's kind of how the game worked. In any case, what I found as a prep tutor is oftentimes your SAT essay was judged by your first or second paragraph and not by the entirety of the essay. If you made a simple mistake in your first sentence or two, the grader would automatically kind of dock you down, skim a little bit, and then assign a score, is what my assumption would be, given the way that the test was graded. When the College Board revised the SAT in 2016, it did away with the 25-minute essay and created an optional 50-minute essay. And they made it writing about an essay that you're critiquing in front of you rather than you making things up. That optional essay at first was adopted by many top-tier universities as a metric, but over the course of the last several years, many top colleges began to drop the essay as a requirement. There were 429 out of about 1,600 four-year colleges that told the College Board they would require the essay in 2005 when it was initiated. By 2018, only 25 colleges and universities were requiring the SAT essay out of thousands. So you can see how the essay was already dying even before COVID-19 got into the mix. During 2018, Harvard, Yale, UC San Diego, Princeton, Brown, Duke, and Stanford all announced that the SAT essay would no longer be required. Why? Most of these colleges and universities cited a point of equity. A lot of schools have been giving the SAT at a school-wide level, meaning for state testing rather than do some state star test or some other alternative standardized test. They said, hey, let's just do the SAT, then kids have the college admissions test and our school assessment test all at once. We're going to kill two birds with one stone. It's going to be really efficient. It's going to be more cost-effective for us as a school district. We only have to pay for one test. And then it also helps our students be prepared for college. This is great. Most of those schools using the SAT as an all-school assessment were doing it without the essay because it was an optional essay. And unless students are applying to top universities, this optional essay often wasn't required. So why pay the extra 16, 17 bucks or whatever it is to add in the essay? That was kind of the reasoning. But what ended up happening is in their research, colleges and universities found that this was often a barrier to entry to top colleges. And so many students who thought they had already taken the SAT would get to their college applications and say, oh, wait, I didn't take the SAT with essay. I guess I can't apply to those schools. And so as a result, many top universities felt that these students who weren't necessarily in school systems that were grooming them for top colleges, or the kinds of kids who had access to independent college consultants or tutoring companies or very savvy school counselors who were hobnobbing with Ivy elites, wouldn't know to take the SAT with essay. Additionally, those kids who were in poorer school districts where they would have to get a fee waiver and then go take the SAT on the weekend and sign up for it on their own, outside of already having taken it during the day, may just shrug their shoulders and opt to apply to universities that didn't require the essay because it was just easier for them. And again, they weren't in a culture where it was normal to be going out of your way to check off all the boxes that these colleges and universities are putting in front of you. So why was the essay dropped this time around? On the one hand, we have some of the issues that Les Perelman was complaining about in all of his articles that he spewed across the internet, namely that graders are expected to read tons of these essays per hour. They're not paid very well, and they're dishing out scores very quickly, and those scores are of questionable accuracy a lot of the time. Or do they drop it because of pressure? And I would say they dropped it because of supply and demand. I think when you have a lot of kids who are being told that this is optional and you got COVID-19 and you don't want to be hanging out in a room with a bunch of people in the middle of a virus, you don't want to take the thing anymore, and it already was on the downtrend. I also believe that the College Board never really wanted to get into the essay game in the first place. You know who wanted them to get into the essay game? The University of California. Though it's complicated and there's some sort of court injunction and maybe some UC schools will begin to look at test optional soon for a year or two, at this point in time, the UCs are test blind. And if the whole reason the College Board created this essay in the first place is saying we're not using your test anyway, why kowtow to people who aren't your customers? That may be the biggest reason why I think the College Board felt free to nix the essay, to be honest. The other thing the College Board mentioned in their press release is that some of the most predictive areas of the test were the multiple choice test, implying that the essay wasn't so predictive. But College Board's own research pointed out that the essay was predictive, particularly if you paired it with GPA and with the standardized test score out of 1,600, in particular for a certain group of people, and that's people who speak a second language in addition to English and people of color. For those students, the essay helped 30% in terms of predictive power Obviously, their own research is potentially biased in its study design. I don't know what the study design is. I didn't go into the details. But like I said, given that they are peddling that story, I would assume that this is really an issue of supply and demand. Nobody's taking the thing, so why do we keep pushing it? It doesn't seem to make a ton of sense, and it's probably costing the College Board heartache and reputation points, potentially. So there you go. I think the other thing the College Board is shifting toward, again, from their latest announcement, is the AP program. Why? Because I think they've been under fire a lot for a type of testing that doesn't integrate well with the high school experience. A lot of people are quick to praise like Britain's A-level system, where your final test or your big standardized test is a test of your cumulative work. It's like the most giant final exam you have in the world, right? But it's actually a test of what you learned in class. And so I think that's the direction College Board wants to head from a PR perspective and from a mission perspective. My guess is that they're trying to go more in the direction of standardized courses as opposed to standardized tests. If it's all standardized within the course and integrated into your learning, then that should be a more fair assessment of who you are and what you're capable of. And that's the direction we're headed. So there you go. The rise and fall of the SAT essay. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. Thanks for watching. Take care.